Hi everyone, Jennifer Blevin-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Before we jump in, I just want to remind everyone that you might just be seeing me release one video a week temporarily. And yes, it's only temporary. I have some personal things going on in my life that is making things a little crazy. And I wanted to make sure I still release new videos. However, doing 2 a week was going to be a little stressful. So until things settle down a little bit, I will only be releasing 1 video a week. So if you have not subscribed to my channel and you have not hit that little notification bell to tell you when I release the videos, please make sure you do so you don't miss out on my content. Today, we're going to talk about how to build an effective onboarding and training program for new employees. If you've watched my previous videos, I'm talking about the importance of standardizing workflows, how to standardize those workflows, and I felt it was only fitting to then talk about standardizing your onboarding process for new employees. Many clinics hire great people. They really seek out and do their due diligence and hire people who are going to be a great fit to their practice, but they never train them properly. And this is a huge ongoing challenge I have seen the whole time I've been in healthcare, and honestly, not just healthcare, in other industries as well. When onboarding is inconsistent with new hires, you have staff developing different workflows for the same thing, and it can confuse the new hires. Errors increase, managers spend a ton of time fixing mistakes, which is not efficient, and patient experience suffers. And these are all things that overlap in my last few videos. I'm sure if you've watched those, you're like, oh my gosh, you've already talked about this. But that's because it's all related. The solution is a structured onboarding and training program from the get-go. Hiring someone is not the finish line. It's actually the starting point for them to be successful in your practice. Today, I'm going to walk you through some simple methods for building an onboarding and training program that actually works in a medical practice that I have implemented myself as a manager, okay? Onboarding matters because it is one of those things that helps the managers, the providers, anybody who has some kind of stake in the business have peace of mind that everyone is learning the same things the same way, right? It helps lessen staff confusion about responsibilities. It has the ability to make sure that everyone has consistent workflows. It reduces your billing errors, your compliance risk goes down, and that's a huge factor, I think. And then it reduces your employee turnover too, which we know is expensive and not ideal. It helps you protect your revenue cycle processes, and it reduces management stress and burnout for them, which also is big in addition to provider burnout. And it helps you improve patient safety and their experiences, okay? There are many, many reasons, and there are many, many more that I didn't provide on why onboarding and standardizing the process for this is so important. Onboarding is also not just an HR-related duty, it's an operational control system as well. So let's go ahead and jump in and go into our steps. So the first step for this is defining the role of the staff member clearly. Before training can even begin, you do have to define their role and where they're going to fit in the practice very clearly. So you want to start with role clarity, and every position should have a job description, defined responsibilities, clear reporting structure, and defined expectations. So what does this employee actually do every day? What systems will they use? And is it more than one? And what tasks must they complete independently? And without these clear role definitions, training will become chaotic, which I'm sure that's assumed it should be. So you want to create a role-specific onboarding track for each role. Step number 2, document your workflows. And we've talked about this. Documentation is huge, and documenting workflows is even bigger. And it must be the training done on a standardized process, right? You cannot train someone effectively if workflows only exist in someone's head. If someone's like, oh yeah, I know that, I'll teach them. No. It needs to be on paper. Everyone needs to know it. Everyone needs to be following it. And that's what the training needs to consist of. Documented workflows will create consistent training, which is good. And then once the workflows are documented, you can build your training structure, right? So first, you're going to have to identify the roles clearly for every staff member or department if you want to do it that way. Then you have to standardize their workflows, and that's when you can put together the training structure. Once you have the training structure, step number 3, you have to build a structured training timeline, okay? So training should follow a progressive timeline, right? They start here, then they move to this, and then they learn this kind of thing, right? So an example would be like week 1, they do orientation, and you talk about clinic overview, policies and compliance, system accesses, and HIPAA training. Those are usually the pretty standard across the board for healthcare, because you want them to understand the practice environment and the culture that you are developing or have developed in your practice, okay? Then, for example, week 2 and 3 could be their core job training, right? They're going to do hands-on training for scheduling systems, EHR documentation, patient communication, insurance verification, whatever their role requires, right? So they're going to shadow, then they're going to implement it by practice, and then somebody's going to supervise them actually doing it, okay? Just some examples of how you can do this. Then week 4 and after could be independent working with oversight. So the employee begins performing tasks independently while managers or leads monitor their performance. And they're going to have some daily check-ins. They're going to have performance review meetings. Like I used to meet with my new hires like once a week, but I would meet with their direct overview manager oversight people consistently every week, like 2 or 3 times a week, and then meet with the actual person once a week just to see how things are going, to get their perspective, address anything that I saw might or could be a problem or develop into a problem, things like that. And then you want to do a skill verification. And of course, those skills are going to be different based on their role, which should be part of their role description. Training should always move from observation to guided practice to independence, okay? That's kind of the progression that it should take. Step 4, use the training checklists. Training programs should be measurable, okay? Use training checklists to track their progress. So your front desk, for example's checklist could be patient registration, insurance verification, copay collection, scheduling rules, things like that. You can have a biller's checklist. You can have a back office checklist, whatever the role is. They all should have their own to make sure that they can competently complete all of those, okay? The benefits of doing this is that managers know what has been taught, right, with that check-in and checklist. Employees know what they're responsible for learning, which is helpful, and training becomes consistent. That is one of the biggest things here. As a tip, have the employee initial each completed skill after they've demonstrated it to you, and you can say that they can do it competently, okay? Maybe both the person who signs them off on the checklist and that employee will initial that once it's completed, and it will go in their employee file. Step 5, assign a training lead. I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but training should have ownership, right? And someone should be responsible for the onboarding. This should be someone else's responsibility, whether it's a manager or it's a lead of a department or an area of the practice. Some possible trainers, like I said, could be the lead medical assistant, the front office supervisor, the practice manager. And their responsibilities would consist of guide the training of the new hire answering questions for the new hire, and evaluating their competency. Without any kind of ownership or anybody overseeing this process, the training becomes inconsistent once again. Every new employee should have a designated training lead, and this should be communicated to them very early on when they're hired. Step 6, you need to evaluate and improve the program. So the process of onboarding, just like your standardized procedures, are always going to be evolving based off the needs of the clinic and the changes in healthcare in general, right? So you want to review the program after each new hire, because this is going to be the perfect opportunity to identify gaps or areas of improvement opportunities. And you need to ask questions like, did training cover everything needed? Where did the employee struggle the most? Was this an individual thing, or was this because we didn't have a very good process internally set up for the training and onboarding of that piece of everything? And which processes need clearer documentation? Some ways that you can improve onboarding is updating those SOPs, which I talked about in a previous video, standard operating procedures, if you're not sure what SOP stands for. Add training videos. This is usually very helpful. Improve your checklists and expand the timelines when necessary. Training programs should continuously improve. You can't just one and done this, okay? Like most things in healthcare, it's going to always need to be reviewed and updated as things change. To build an onboarding program, you have to define the role clearly, like we talked about, document the workflows, create a training timeline, use training checklists, assign a training lead, and continuously improve the onboarding program. A well-designed onboarding program helps your clinic maintain consistent workflows, reduce errors, improve staff confidence and lessen staff turnover, and deliver better patient care, keeping patient safety in mind as well. Hiring the right employee is important, and that's a very good start. But training them properly is what makes them successful and makes your practice successful at the same time. So keep that in mind as you are evaluating your current process, or maybe you're someone who is trying to open a practice or just open a practice and you haven't set this up yet. Please take this into consideration and develop your program based off of this information. If you have any questions or comments about this, please leave that in the comments below. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, please share my video with your colleagues. Thank you so much. I hope you're well. Take care. Bye-bye.